What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian from House of Wrestling. This is my review for the January 11th episode of AEW Dynamite. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you are notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. So, tonight's AEW Dynamite. Man, this was a very great show. There was no Mercedes Moné. I'll get into that a little bit later. But overall, this was a fun show. This was a hot Los Angeles crowd. They were very enthusiastic. This goes back to probably Full Gear that AEW has had some really hot crowds on TV. That's, if you're watching it, it makes the presentation even more attractive. Like, man, this crowd is really into this. Like, let me see what else happens on this show. So I enjoyed the show. I know a lot of people are disappointed, upset that we did not get Mercedes Moné. All I got to say, there's a few things I got to say, but for right now, I do got to say that AEW, historically, in its going on 4-year history, historically, they have had the track record of overtly and how do I put this? AEW has a track record of giving obvious and overtly hints, beyond hints, teases that someone is debuting. CM Punk, Kyle O'Reilly, they did it. Ruby Soho, they kind of did it, but she more did it on her social media. Trying to think of who else could have done it. I know I'm missing someone. Cesaro? No, not Cesaro. I'm trying to think of who else, but there's been quite a few. But they literally, like I said, it's their track record to give obvious and overtly teases. What Britt Baker did with the I'm the boss wink and giving away 2 tickets, that was more of a nod. That was not even a hint or a tease. That was a nod that, hey, we know Mercedes Moné is a free agent. She's she might be the partner. Again, that was a nod in that direction. It wasn't a tease or anything like that. And the reason why I say that also is because outside of those 2 things, anything else was just very vague. Like, there wasn't no mention from other wrestlers, anything like that. Like with CM Punk, when he debuted, before that, there were a lot of wrestlers using the term best in the world. You know, best in the world. Like, they were using that a lot. And it wasn't until Darby Allin, either that Dynamite or the week before, he just mentioned, you know, I want to face whoever's the best in the world. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. We know who it is, and of course, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, were wearing shirts about it. It was being hinted on BTE. With the Mercedes Moné thing that we've seen in the past month, there really wasn't anything teased on BTE or with other wrestlers. So, to some extent, again, I could see why people were upset and angry. But to a certain extent, it didn't fit the track record of what AEW does as far as teases. But I do got to say this. Thinking about it in full circle and everything, if Mercedes Moné did show up tonight, okay, she shows up. First thing is, it would be a similar debut that Saraya had at Grand Slam back in September. So it's kind of like you're literally doing the same debut, just swapping people. So it's like, are you really going to debut Mercedes Moné with the track record and the stature she has as a professional wrestler in the professional wrestling industry? Like, that's kind of cheesy. And that's kind of something that Impact Wrestling would have done back in the day. So it's like, I don't think that's possible. What I do think is possible because Mercedes Moné didn't show up, and I do think this is a better debut than just having her come and then she's in the midst of a storyline that's already going on, and what does she do in the meantime? Like, what's the story going forward? You know, she does have the match at Battle of the Valley February 18th against Kari. So here's what I think is a better debut for Mercedes Moné. Granted, it would have been cool to see her tonight, but this is where I think it would be a better debut for Mercedes Moné. One, she goes to Battle of the Valley, which is already sold out. She defeats Kari, which is going to be on February 18th. Then, a few weeks later, she shows up at AEW Revolution March 5th and confronts whoever the AEW Women's Champion is. Why do I think that's a better debut? Because just debuting her, just to debut her, like tonight and everything is like, okay, yeah, cool, yeah, she's back, yeah, AEW, blah, blah, blah. But then what? But if you bring her in AEW with the IWGP Women's Championship and she confronts the Women's Championship champion, which may be JB Hayter by that time, now you got some real serious storylines where now you're kind of teasing the Stardom, if you call it invasion and stuff like that, with Julia, Suri, oh my God, I'm brain locking right now, all the women from Stardom. So now you have that, okay. For me, that's a better debut. And she comes out with the title. Stardom is what many consider to be the best women's division in all of professional wrestling. That has more depth, meaning, and significance than just having her show up, on a Dynamite. Now, again, it would have been cool, but debuting her that way, that's something. Plus, it's a pay-per-view. That would be something. Plus, we don't even know if that could happen. It could also happen as soon as she wins that title. She challenges the AEW Women's Champion at Revolution. There you go. That could happen. So, we shall see. But before I get into this review, let me give you guys the results. We had Hangman Page defeat Jon Moxley. We had Jungle Boy and Hook defeat Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. We had Bryan Danielson defeat Konosuke Takeshita. We had Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker defeat Toni Storm and Saraya. And we had the Elite defeat Death Triangle. So that is the results for the January 11th episode of AEW Dynamite. Man, so let's get into this first match. Moxley, Hangman Page. This was a very physical, aggressive, gritty match. This was more like a grudge match, but this wasn't the end of everything that is encountered with Hangman Page and Jon Moxley. Later on in this match, towards the end of this match, we had Moxley execute the Death Rider, which was kicked out by Hangman Page. Moxley executed the Bulldog Choke a little bit after that. Then we had Moxley do a pile driver, which Hangman Page kicked out. Then a little bit after that, you had Jon Moxley give the crowd a finger after they were chanting cowboy shit, cowboy shit. So you had that. Then you had the Deadeye by Page, which Moxley, it didn't faze him because he wound up doing the stomp on, you call it this curb stomp, on Hangman Page. A little bit after that, Moxley's busted open. And then Hangman Page executes the buckshot lariat, pins Moxley 1, 2, 3. He wins. And then afterwards, the doctors are checking on Moxley because you see Hangman Page like, hey, he points and checks on him. And then Moxley's in the corner. He's like this. And Dr. Sampson's looking at him. And you hear Moxley say, what happened? So we're going with a concussion angle. You have Hangman Page, who received a concussion at the hands of Jon Moxley, and now you have Jon Moxley receiving a concussion from the hands of Hangman Page. So both have suffered ailments, similar ailments from the other. So Really intrigued to see where this goes. Of course, this could be leading to Jon Moxley taking some time off, which he was supposed to do back at All Out, which we know circumstances surrounding that didn't happen. So hopefully he does get the break that he deserves and just see where this storyline goes. It's cool to see Hangman Page back, and man, this crowd was into this match. So after that, you had Excalibur and Taz. They mentioned that the doctors are checking on Jon Moxley in the back, and so on and so on. And then they cut to Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone mentions, hey, I don't like introducing this guy, but, well, here he is. And right away, everyone's thinking it's MJF. Like, no, MJF is, Tony Schiavone is always ragging this guy. He is just downing him, just dogging him. And, of course, the crowd expecting, we're anticipating MJF's music. But what do we get? Adam Cole, baby. Yes, Adam Cole has returned to AEW. Man, I'm excited. I'm happy. About time he's back. It is so fun to see him back. But the most important thing, it's good to see that he's healthy. So before he even starts talking, like there's just Adam Cole chants and everything. He mentions he has an appreciation for life. He mentions AEW is the best pro wrestling company on the planet. There's more AEW chants. He discusses a little bit of the shoulder and head issues he was having. He had difficulty sleeping and, driving at least 15 minutes in the car. He would just get nauseous and throw up. It was just really a lot of stuff that resonated with people that was just like, ooh, man, this is, okay. But then he's like, I got some bad news, and everyone's like, oh, and he's like, well, the bad news is for everyone in the AEW locker room because I am back. And he mentions that I haven't scratched the surface in AEW, which he hasn't. He hasn't even, has he held any gold? No, he hasn't. Before his injury, it was looking like he was going to get the trios title, which, of course, injuries and stuff like that didn't happen. So yeah, he mentions that, you're about to get the new Adam Cole. So are we getting a face Adam Cole? What's going to happen with him and the Elite, considering that him, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly, the last time he was on TV, they beat the hell out of the Young Bucks? Is Adam Cole going to reunite with Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Maria Kanellis and reform the Kingdom? A lot of questions to surround this, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad he's back. This is so cool. He looks healthy, vibrant, and the crowd resonated with him. Man, it's another guy in AEW that when they come out, they get a pop. Like, they get a pop. And that's the cool thing about watching AEW is that they have this long list of wrestlers, of faces necessarily, that get large crowd reactions, like loud crowd reactions. It's so good to hear, man. I enjoy it, and man, it's fun. Man, Adam Cole's back, baby. So after that, we had a backstage segment with the Acclaimed, and they're mentioning about the Walk of Fame, and they'll be there on Rampage. I did get a brief heads up as far as what the spoilers are. It was kind of funny what happened, but I'm looking forward to Max Caster's rap. So it's fun, man. As soon as the Acclaim music hits, that crowd just goes up. Adam Cole's music hits, that crowd goes up. MJF as a heel, that crowd goes up. It's crazy. Jericho, although I'm annoyed by his song, he gets a crowd reaction. So Ricky Starks, who else? The Elite, the House of Black. Like, I'm just naming a few. Like, there's other wrestlers I can't think of. Hangman Page is another one. Moxley, like Jamie Hayter gets one of the loudest reactions. Jade Cargill, all these Britt Baker, like, man, there's a lot of AEW wrestlers that get large crowd reactions for their entrance, which is so cool. So we get to Lee Moriarty and Big Bill versus Hook and Jungle Boy. This is a really quick match. Everyone got some type of offense. It was more Jungle Boy and Hook. They got their offense in. My favorite point of this match was Hook and Big Bill having that face-to-face stare-off, because they kind of teased it the last time these guys were in the ring, and Hook tried to do the pop-up suplex, didn't execute it at that time. So they're looking at each other, and then Big Bill tries to do something, and he winds up getting out of the ring, and you have, or actually this is before, you have Jungle Boy go in the back or dive through the ropes, and Big Bill catches him, and he's about to like choke slam him on the apron, and you have Hook slide and break it up and everything. Then they get back in the ring, and of course you have the face off, and then he tries to lift him. He couldn't lift him. He tries to lift him, and then before you know it, Hook does the pop-up suplex on Big Bill. That was so cool. That was a visual to see. I was like, yo, that's dope. And I'm liking this tag team of Hook and Jungle Boy. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, I'm enjoying this. This was a smart idea to put these two together. Like, I like this. And they did mention on the commentary, hey, this is, this tag team of Hook and Jungle Boy, which was pretty dope. So after that, you had Jungle Boy execute the snare trap on Lee Moriarty. They get the win. Pretty cool tag team. Me personally, with Hook and Jungle Boy, I would add Anna Jay to that group. Honestly, Anna Jay needs to turn back into a face, because the whole Jericho Appreciation Society, her with Ty Mello, granted they're going to have a match with Willow and everything, but it just don't click. And there's certain elements in AEW that if it's behind the scenes, you might want to put it on screen, and I believe there's still an item off screen. So I would do that. I would put them as a tandem with Hook. That would be pretty cool. And Anna Jay does have that presence that if something was to happen to Jungle Boy, she would be that, oh my God, no, that would draw sympathy from the crowd. That's the way I feel. I think they should put them together. Then we get a backstage segment with OC, Danhausen, Paul Walter Hausen from, freaking Cobra Kai. Yes, I was going to say the Karate Kid, but the Cobra Kai series on Netflix, really cool. He has his Golden Globe, and he's like, I'm going to show you my Golden Globe on Rampage. So we got to watch Rampage to see the Golden Globe and see how this fares out and everything. And now that I think about it, I don't recall Excalibur doing his quick match announcements. Maybe he did. Comment below if he did do the match announcements towards the end, but I don't recall Excalibur giving the match, the matches for Rampage and then a few for Dynamite. I don't recall him doing it. I gotta watch the episode again. I don't recall that. So comment below if he did do that. I don't recall. So from there, we get not a backstage segment. We get Konosuke Takeshita versus Bryan Danielson. We got MJF coming out. He does make a reference. He's like, we speak American. And then before that, Konosuke Takeshita, he's speaking in Japanese, which is his language. And what a condescending, man, very condescending, and just, oh my God. MJF was like, we speak American. And I was like, isn't it? It's like, whatever. And then Konosuke Takeshita is like, what, I said, kiss my ass. And I popped. I was like, that's funny. I know a few people kind of like, this and that and this and that. And MJF's got to get his combo meets. I do think that the MJF talking, he talked too long on this segment. And the reason why I say that it did feel the women's match was rushed and it did feel like the Death Triangle Elite match was cut short because he talked like it was like, man, you gotta like cut this. I believe he was talking at, man, I think 7:40, and he didn't stop talking till like 7:50. And it was like, man, they got the women's match, they got the Jericho segment, and then they got the Elite match. I'm like, hey man, this already, like, the match didn't start till like maybe 7:55, maybe. Yeah, it's like 7:55, and like the match didn't end till like 8, was it 8:13? Yeah, I think like 8:13. So it was just like, man, he talked too long. Like, that was like, I don't have no problem with him, as a heel, he's gonna talk, but like he talked too long, and it really took away from. Shout out to Takeshita and Bryan Danielson. Like, they had a great match with the limited amount of time they had, but yeah, I did feel that MJF went too long in his promo and it took away from that match. But man, this match, I'm just gonna give you towards the end of the match because this whole match had great sequence. Takeshita and Bryan Danielson, they have very good chemistry, man. And this was, please watch this match again, man. This was a beauty. Towards the end of the match, you had Bryan give the running knee. Then you had, actually, no, it was I believe he was trying to do a Hurricane Run on the outside, and it was just really awkward how he landed. Not in a bad way. It was kind of like he did the motion and then kind of stopped and then bloop, dropped down. It was like, oh, and of course he favored his knee and things like that. And Takeshita wound up getting the upper hand and executing a brainbuster on the outside. It's like, man, Takeshita, man, that guy's going to have a big 2023. And in 2024, I believe in 2023, Takeshita towards the end will probably be the All Atlantic champion. I do believe that he's going to be the All Atlantic champion. So after the brainbuster on the outside, a little bit later, you had Bryan Danielson execute the lapel lock. Takeshita kicked out. Then you have AEW chants. You had "This is awesome" chants during this match. Then you had the moon cycle knee that Bryan Danielson executes, pinned. Takeshita kicked out, and then you had Bryan Danielson execute a submission. Takeshita tapped, 1, 2, 3. He tapped, and sportsmanship. Takeshita and Danielson shook hands and everything, and they raised hands. It was like, oh man, this is cool. But that was a great match. Man, those forearm strikes, the chops, just the physicality and grit that Takeshita wrestles with, man. He doesn't wrestle like a guy that is going to lose. Like, every match that he's in, you're like, man, this guy's gonna win, and he doesn't. And it's not a bad thing because, granted, he's young, but I tweeted this, like, Takeshita is one of the AEW pillars. Like, of course, they've had pillars, Darby, MJF, Hook, all those guys, but Takeshita is one of those pillars, man, that's like, yo, this man's doing some stuff. Then we get a backstage segment with Juice Robinson. He calls out Darby Allin for the TNT title. Believe that's happening on Rampage. That's gonna be a dope match, and I cannot wait to watch that match. Then we get to the women's tag team match. Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm and Saraya. Let me drink some water for this. So, Jamie Hayter, or actually Toni Storm and Saraya, come out first. Mind you, I'm going to put this in context. So the crowd was, when you had the music, it's like, okay, everybody in the audience, and I could tell on Twitter and social media, everyone's just like, all right, is this Mercedes Moné debut going to happen? And of course, we're anticipating the music hit, her come out, pop, that whole thing. So we don't get that. So what we get, like I said, we get Toni Storm, Saraya come out. Then we got Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter come out. Jamie Hayter came out with a loud reaction. Like, she gets one of the loudest reactions. Yeah, Toni Storm and Hayter start off. Then halfway through the match, you had Sheeta come down. So it's like, all right, Sheeta's here. You know, she was, Saraya didn't pick her. She's going to turn. Like, I can tell where most people were thinking, because I was probably thinking the same thing that you guys were thinking. Sheeta's down there. She's going to cost them the match. Then there's going to be a beatdown. Then Mercedes Moné's music going to hit. Then she's going to come out. And like I said before, early in this review, that would be similar to how Saraya debuted in AEW. And it's like, you don't do that with someone like Mercedes Moné's caliber and stature. You don't do that to any woman that you're debuting. Like, you don't recycle a debut that you just had, 4 or 5 months ago. Like, you just don't do that. So Sheeta's down there, and after she comes down there, you get Toni Storm executing a hip attack. Then you have the Avalanche air raid. Then you have a German suplex by Toni Storm on Hayter. Then you have a bunch of forearm exchanges between Hayter and Storm. And then you get Sheeta tossing the Kindle stick in the ring. Not to anybody, because when she tosses in the ring, you have Britt Baker and I believe it was Toni Storm in the ring, lying down, and she's like, oh my God, oh my God. And Britt Baker gets it, and she hits, I believe it was Toni Storm or Saraya or what have you, and she gets the pin, and you have Sheeta just going, oh no, and it's like, I don't buy the oh no. It's like, are we going to get Sheeta joining Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Rebel? And it looks like we're getting the AEW Originals versus the World. That's what I'm going to call it. AEW Originals versus the World. I'm not going to say Outsiders, because that's, NWO and all that. But I do think it's AEW Originals versus the World in the women's division, which I'm all for that. And like I said before, me personally, now, after tonight, that Mercedes Moné didn't show up, the best debut for Mercedes Moné is February 18th. She defeats Kari for the IWGP Women's Championship, and then either she challenges the AEW Women's Champion going into Revolution, or she shows up at AEW Revolution and confronts and challenges the AEW Champion. For me, that is a better way you debut Mercedes Moné, because now she's coming into AEW with gold, which, if she's money, she should have gold. So now I see it again. I'm slightly disappointed that she didn't show up, but then again, we don't know if it was her call or New Japan's call for her to have her first match in New Japan first, then go to AEW. We don't know that, but like I said, it's what's done is done. I'm really interested to see where this goes with Sheeta and Britt Baker and Toni Storm and Saraya. Just really intrigued. Like, the AEW Women's Division has made a drastic improvement in the last 2.5, 3 months. Like, if you're still saying like, oh, there's nothing here in the women's division, you haven't been paying attention and watching the women's division in the last 2.5, 3 months. It's improved greatly. And there's storylines that are there. And we're also getting, potentially next month, Chris Statlander should be returning, if I believe that correctly. I think she tweeted that. So that's another element to this story. AEW Women's Originals versus the World. I believe that's the storyline that we're looking. That's possibly going into the rest of this month and probably the rest of the year. Hey, we might get a AEW Women's Blood and Guts this year, which that would be cool, and it makes a lot of sense. Then we get a video with Eddie Kingston and Ortiz. They challenge the Kings of the Black Throne, which is Malachi Black and Brody King. That should be good on Rampage, man. Whoo! I love Eddie Kingston, love Ortiz, and man, I enjoy watching Malachi Black and Brody King. That is going to be fun on Friday. Now we get to the main event, Death Triangle, the Elite. This is another match that is hard for me to... One, the movement in this match, the aggression, the grit, the physicality, the creativity, it was all there. Like the stuff that they did. What I like is that they didn't use the ladders excessively. They used it creatively and strategically, which made logical sense. Like, hey, the guy who's going up to get the belt isn't necessarily going to use the ladder, but his teammates are going to use the ladder to beat up the guy that's trying to stop him from getting the ladder, which I like that. Like, I really like that about this match because it's like, oh man, it's really new. What was the part that I'll start with? The Alex Abrahantes knocking, I believe it was Matt Jackson, off the ladder, and then Brandon Cutler comes in, he sprays him. Then you had Pac hit the Omega with a ladder. Then a little bit later, you had a Falcon Arrow. Omega did on, or Pac did to Omega. Then you had the Fear Factor by Penta on Matt Hardy on the ladder. It's like, man, those ladder spots. That spot I was concerned because they had the ladder on the top rope, and you had Penta there, and he's putting Matt Jackson in the position to execute the move, and you have Rey Fenix holding the ladder, and it's just like, please don't fall back, because literally there was I want to say maybe a foot and a half, and like it was the outside. It's like, ooh man, I hope that doesn't. Ooh man, but thankfully that didn't happen. Then you had the One Wing Angel from Omega, I believe, on Pac on the ladder. Then you had Pac try to do. Actually, no, it was a One Wing Angel from the ladder onto the mat, and then you had Pac try to execute a move. He got countered, and then Omega gets up on the ramp, the ladder. He gets the title. So yes, the Elite are the new AEW Trios champions. This is gonna be fun because you got Death Triangle. Let's see if we get a reunion of Adam Cole with the Kingdom. Might get that. I'm trying to think of other trios that we might get in AEW. Of course, the Best Friends. There's Ascension there. The Best Friends might turn on Orange Cassidy, or never say never. We could get a switch. We could get Orange Cassidy turn on the Best Friends. Something to think about. But overall, man, this was a fun show. I enjoyed it. Granted, a little disappointed that Mercedes Moné didn't show up, but like I said earlier in this review, there's a lot of things that AEW didn't do that they normally do as far as teases and hints and everything that they didn't do with Mercedes Moné, but that's not to say that she won't be there. I could say next month and the month after. So we'll see what happens. But man, overall, this was a fun show. There's a lot of things coming out of this that are just like, oh, okay, I'm interested with this. All right, cool. Let's see where this goes. But man, I had fun with this. And also, I forgot to mention when I started this review, I like that AEW finally changed the apron curtains, that it reflects the logo that is on their graphics. I love that. I love the fact that the barricades had the logo, like it didn't have the AEW logo in black. It actually had the AEW logo with the new graphic design. That made the presentation so much livelier, and just like, thank God they I wish they would have done that with the old setup. That would have added more, and I'm surprised they didn't do that. It's just really interesting why they didn't do that. But like I said, overall, this was a fun show. Let's see what happens on Rampage, and let's see what happens next week. So there's a lot of things coming out of this. Of course, AEW did, Mercedes Moné didn't show up. Well, let's see what happens. And I'll use the quote from Triple H. There's next week, and there's a show. So we just got to watch next week and see what happens. But man, overall, this was, like I said, man, this was a great palate cleanser, wrestling-wise, for any wrestling fan that is a wrestling fan of all promotions. And considering what has transpired in the other company and those changes and everything, and just thinking new ownership, like that, all that stuff, like this was just a fun night of, all right, cool, I can watch something different, and all right, cool. And granted, some people may be disappointed by Mercedes Moné not showing up, but considering what's happened in the other company, Mercedes Moné not showing up isn't necessarily the worst thing that's happening in wrestling. So I'll take it. I do believe that eventually she will show up there, because she did mention in her New Japan conference, don't think it's just here. I'm going to go get some pesos and this. So she hinted that she's going to be traveling. So that's all cool, man. Let's just enjoy wrestling, man. I'm just looking forward to it and want to have some fun. And I know you guys want to have some fun too. So let me know what you guys thought of AEW Dynamite, the January 11th episode from the Kia Forum in Los Angeles. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you are notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And yes, it's been a very challenging week for wrestling fans, but let's just have fun. There's other wrestling that we can watch, and man, like what you like, but just don't be condescending and dismissive of what other people like, man. Just keep it moving.